So this morning we're working on an '05 Kia Sedona, and I got to replace the fuel tank. It's leaking around the filler neck. It's leaking around the filler pipe where it goes in here or up above here someplace. What I've done is I've taken an awl and I punched a hole in the corner of the gas tank because this thing was just under a third, and as you can see, the filler pipe is below the halfway mark, so I don't want fuel to run out. As soon as this stops dripping into this pail here, I'll put a plug in there and go ahead and remove the tank. So remove the middle seat. Customer's already done that for me, and then open this little flap, and there's an access hole here for the fuel pump assembly, which is kind of nice. Wish other manufacturers would do the same. So remove the 4 machine screws that hold the plastic trim down, and then 4 self-tapping screws that hold the metal cover down, and that accesses the fuel pipes. We got to try to save this fuel pump assembly because he doesn't have a new one. These pipes are going to be interesting. They look pretty rusty here. Well, let's get the electrical plugs undone. Well, that was fun. Work the lines with a pair of needle nose pliers, twist them back and forth. You're supposed to squeeze these 2 little plastic clips here, and that's supposed to release the line, but that didn't work. I had to go in with a 90-degree pick and push the tabs off to one side. The pipes are a little rusty. We're going to clean it up once we get the tank out. Be prepared, there's going to be some fuel pressure in there. I was using a borescope so I could see in there to see what the clip looked like. And be aware that this is the pressure line here, so when you pull this one off you're going to get fuel spraying out. I should have relieved the pressure beforehand by disabling the fuel pump, but you've got a quarter of a cup of gasoline here. That's no big deal. Once you drop the 2 straps at the front and lower the tank slightly, you'll see there's some evap lines here. Those are going to have to be disconnected. I don't think there's any on the other side. Doesn't look like it. Again, I've already drained this tank, so there's next to nothing in it. Otherwise it would have came running out of the filler pipe here. I might just cut these lines off with a pair of tin snips. They're so rusty. They come with the tank. As you can see, it's on the side of the tank, that pipe. So we don't need to save that pipe. So I disconnected this front line, and that's all you really need to do, and then take the 2 clips off the fuel lines that hold the fuel lines to this bracket, and then you can lower the tank assembly. Now we're going to use an impact screwdriver to remove these screws that hold the vent, check valve, vent, and the fuel pump assembly. As I said, we have to reuse these 3 pieces here. So here's what's involved in using an impact screwdriver to get these screws out. Turn it as if you're trying to remove it, hold down pressure on it and hit it with a hammer, and that turns the screw and drives it into the cross at the same time. And most of the time you can either break the screw off, which I really don't care because the tank's garbage, you got new screws, or it comes out like it did. Some are a little tougher. Usually once you get them turning a couple of threads, I don't know if we're going to get this in the camera or not. That one's kind of stripped now. Let's try this one here. Another option is just to cut the head of the screw off, but you can't use a grinder or anything with the sparks here, obviously. So that's how you remove all these screws. So several of the screws wouldn't turn anyway, and the Phillips head stripped, so I had to drill the heads of the screws off. There's 2 here. If you use a drill, use an air-powered drill. You don't want anything with sparks. You can't use a grinder. The screws are too hard to chisel. I tried to chisel one, but the tank's too flimsy and you can't get a good hit on it. Plus I need to save this fuel pump and these pieces here. So you also need to save these rubber insulators that go on the tank. You can see where they were. We're going to glue them with some contact cement. This one was over here, for instance. They stopped the fuel pump noise from transmitting into the body of the vehicle. So we've saved these 4 pads. I'm going to set this old tank on the floor and put the new one up here. So there's the tank prepped and ready to go back in. I got these rubber insulators contact cemented back on to the tank where they were. These gaskets on the fuel pump and this vent over here are have to be oriented in the correct position, otherwise the screw holes won't line up. The original ones had little rubber dowels, but these ones don't. But nevertheless, it's in there. It should be good. And we're ready to put the tank up. We got new straps as well.